My beloved child, let your heart be still before me a little longer, for there are things I want you to understand by faith, not merely by reason. There have been times when you looked at the changes happening around you and wondered whether you were losing something. Some doors closed, some relationships began to shift, and places that once felt familiar no longer gave you the same sense of belonging. Deep within your heart, you sometimes thought that perhaps I was disciplining you, or that something in you was not good enough. But today, I want to erase that thought from your heart. Not every transition is a sign of loss. Many times, it is a sign of growth. It is not because I am displeased with you that I call you to move forward, but because I see that what I have formed within you has grown beyond the old framework. Just as a father sees that his grown child can no longer remain in the garment of years past, I also see that your soul no longer fits within the limits that were once sufficient for you. My child, there are seasons when I allow you to remain in certain environments so that you may learn, be healed, and be built up. But when the purpose of that season is complete, I do not want you to turn a temporary place into a permanent dwelling. Many people miss the new thing I have prepared, not because they do not love me, but because they love familiarity too much. They cling so tightly to what was once a blessing that they fail to recognize that I am calling them into a greater blessing. Remember Abraham. If he had clung to his homeland because of the feeling of safety, he would never have seen the land I had promised. If the people of Israel had kept longing for Egypt because of what was familiar, they could not have entered the land flowing with milk and honey. What I am teaching you today is that faith is not only trusting me where you are standing, but also trusting me enough to step into a place where your feet have never been. I know there have been voices echoing within your heart for many years. Certain remarks, disappointments, and moments of being looked down upon have quietly built invisible walls around you. They whisper that you can only go so far. They tell you that great things are meant for others. They have made you accustomed to shrinking yourself to fit the expectations of those around you. But my beloved child, those voices do not come from me. I never created you to live inside the cage of inferiority. I never placed great visions in your heart only to desire that you live beneath what I have ordained for you. When I look at you, I do not see the failures of the past. I see the potential that my grace is awakening. I do not look at you through the limits of your past. I look at you through the purpose I wrote for your life before you were born. As it is written in the book of the prophet Isaiah, enlarge the place of your tent. Stretch out the curtains of your dwellings. Do not hold back. Lengthen your cords and strengthen your stakes. Reflect on this. My child, before increase came, I told my people to make room. Before the new season appeared, I called them to prepare space for what they had not yet seen. That is exactly what I am doing in your life. I am expanding your vision before I expand your territory. I am increasing the capacity of your soul before I entrust new things to you. For if your heart is not enlarged, you may receive what I give, but be unable to carry it. Therefore, do not see the present changes as meaningless disruption. They are the preparatory work of heaven. My beloved child, there are conversations that once felt fulfilling to you, but no longer nourish your soul. There are ways of thinking that once helped you through a certain season, but have now become a limitation. There are places that once served as a refuge, but are no longer places of growth. This does not mean those things are evil. It only means that you have grown. A child needs milk, but as he matures, he needs solid food. If you keep clinging to what was suitable for yesterday, you will not have the strength required for tomorrow. I am leading you into a new depth of understanding, where you no longer live merely to survive, but to fulfill what I have entrusted to you. Remember the story of Elisha. When he received my calling, he was plowing the field with his oxen. That work was not wrong. That life was not evil. But if he had remained there, he would never have stepped into the ministry I had appointed for him. Therefore, he had to lay down the plow. He had to leave behind what was familiar in order to pursue what he was called to. What is remarkable is that he did not know the full future ahead. He only knew that I was calling, and that obedience opened a journey far beyond anything he had ever imagined. The same is true for you. I may not be asking you to leave a literal field, but I am inviting you to leave the old limits in your thinking, in your fears, and in the way you see yourself. My child, do not be afraid when I draw you out of your comfort zone. An eagle does not learn to fly by clinging forever to the nest. A seed cannot become a great tree if it remains still in the sower's pouch. And you cannot step into the fullness I have prepared for you if you remain in a place that no longer challenges your faith. What I have prepared for you is not behind you, but ahead of you. The best things do not belong to the days that have passed, but to the days that are coming. As I said in Jeremiah 29:11, for I know the plans I have for you, plans for peace and not for evil, to give you a future and a hope. This is not a promise reserved for only a few special people. It is my heart toward you. Therefore, stop seeing change as a threat. See it as my invitation. Do not regard letting go as loss. See it as the space I am creating to fill with something new. There are things you cannot carry into the next season, not because they are bad, but because they no longer fit where I am leading you. I do not take anything from you merely to leave you empty. I am always the one who replaces what is good with what is better, what is temporary with what is more enduring, and what is limited with what is far greater. Therefore, my beloved child, open your hands. Let go of the need to control everything. Stop trying to hold on to what I am gently asking you to lay down. You are not being pushed out of a place of safety. You are being led into a place of greater spaciousness. You are not being left behind. You are being brought forward. You are not moving away from my will. You are moving deeper into it. And the day will come when you look back on this season with gratitude. For you will realize that the hardest part was not taking the step forward, but releasing what I had called you to leave behind. Yet once you step forward in faith, you will discover that everything I have prepared is greater than your fears, more beautiful than you ever imagined, and far closer than you think today. My beloved child, let your heart find rest in my presence, for there are burdens you were never created to carry. Many times you live as though your future depends entirely upon your own strength, as though every door must be opened by your own hand. Every path must be mapped out by your own wisdom, and every outcome rests upon your fragile shoulders. But today I want to remind you of a profound truth. You are not the architect of your destiny. I am the one who drew the blueprint from the very beginning. Before you understood the journey you would walk, I already saw the destination. Before you knew what you would need, I had already prepared it. And before you faced any trial, I was already standing in your tomorrow, preparing the way before you. My child, when a builder looks at a structure under construction, he sees unfinished walls, scattered materials, and work yet to be completed. But the architect sees the entire house from the moment the first stone is laid. In the same way, you view your life through scattered pieces, while I see the finished picture. Some things that confuse you today are the very links needed for what I will accomplish tomorrow. There are turns you do not understand and seasons of waiting you cannot explain. Yet nothing lies outside of my sovereignty. As it is written, he who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion. What I begin, I do not abandon. What I build, I do not allow to collapse halfway through. Therefore, do not let your heart be troubled by things that have not yet happened. I know exactly what is needed for your next season. I know when you need stillness for healing, and when you need to be urged forward. I know when a door must close to protect you from what does not belong to you. I also know the proper time to open opportunities that no one can shut. You often worry because you cannot see the entire road. But you forget that the one who leads you has never been lost, like a shepherd walking ahead of his flock. I always go before you. You do not need to see every turn in the road to keep moving. You only need to trust the one who is holding your hand. Remember the story of Nehemiah. When I placed the burden of rebuilding the walls of Jerusalem upon his heart, the task seemed far beyond the ability of one man. Before him lay ruins. Around him stood opposition, mockery, and resistance. Yet Nehemiah did not build by his own strength. He built with the conviction that I was the one who had placed that assignment within him. And because I was the one who initiated it, I was also the one who supplied the strength to complete it. The same is true for you. There are things I am placing in your heart today that seem larger than your present abilities. But do not measure the calling by the resources you currently possess. Measure it by the power of the one who has called you. My beloved child, if you could see what I am preparing ahead of you, your heart would be freed from many fears. There are relationships I am arranging that you have not yet encountered. There are doors opening in places you never expected. There are meetings and divine appointments that will change the direction of your life. There are people I am preparing to walk beside you, encourage you, and strengthen you in the coming season. Do not think that you must walk alone. In every stage of the journey, I know how to send the right people at the right time. Just as I sent Aaron to Moses, Jonathan to David, and Barnabas to Paul, I also know how to bring the people necessary for your journey. But before you see those things, I am teaching you a lesson that is even more important, learning how to let go and trust. Many times, what causes you pain is not that I have not opened a new door, but that you are still holding tightly to the old one. You still want to keep what is familiar, while I am inviting you into what you have never experienced before. Remember Peter when he was called to step out of the boat. Safety was in the boat, but the miracle was on the water. If he had clung to what was familiar, he would never have experienced my power in a new way. Faith is not standing still in safety and waiting for everything to change. Faith is following my voice, even when you cannot yet see the full outcome. My child, when you look back on your life, you will realize that not a single tear was wasted. There were nights when you thought you were alone, yet I was there. There were times when you believed your prayers never rose beyond the ceiling, yet I had heard them before they were even spoken. There were delays that broke your heart, but one day you will understand that they protected you from things that were not yet in the right season. Just as Joseph had to pass through the pit, slavery, and prison before entering the palace. Every stage of your journey carries meaning within. My plan. No part of the journey is wasted when I am the one at the helm. My beloved child, do not stand before the door I have opened and allow fear to make you retreat. Do not look at your weaknesses and forget to look at my power. Do not evaluate your future through the limitations of your present circumstances. What I am calling you to do is not based on your ability, but on my presence. When Moses worried about his inadequacies, I did not promise that he would become perfect. I simply said, I will be with you, and that was enough. Today I am speaking the same words to you. Your greatest strength is not found in your talents, your experience, or your resources. Your greatest strength is that I am with you. Therefore, move forward with courage, not because you know everything that lies ahead, but because you know the one who is leading you. I go before you like the cloud that guided my people by day and the pillar of fire that illuminated the darkness by night. I stand behind you as your shield and protection. I walk beside you as the friend who will never betray you. You are not moving toward a dead end. You are not walking into meaningless uncertainty. You are being led into a broader land, a place where promises will gradually unfold, where the things you once prayed for will begin to bear fruit, and where you will realize that everything I have done has been guiding you to the very place I intended for you from the beginning. So, walk on, my beloved child. For the same hand that sustained you through the storms of past seasons is the hand now opening the future before you. And what I have prepared for you is always better than what you have left behind. My beloved child, open your heart to receive what I am revealing. For what is taking place in your life is not merely a change of circumstances, nor is it simply an outward shift that can be seen with natural eyes. I am doing a far deeper work. I am reaching down to the very foundation of your soul. I am tearing down the limits that you have unconsciously accepted as part of your destiny. For a long time, you have become accustomed to living beneath what I intended for you, not because you lacked ability, and not because I refused to bless you, but because invisible walls were built within your mind through disappointments, negative words, past failures, and fears that were never fully healed. They convinced you that merely surviving was enough, that simply getting through today was enough, that not falling apart was enough. But, my child, I did not create you merely to survive. I created you to be fruitful, to grow, and to reflect my glory in your generation. There have been seasons when you lived in a spiritual wilderness where everything seemed to stand still. You continued to pray, to wait, and to hope. Yet, deep within your heart, you felt as though you were walking in the same familiar circle. The things you longed for always seemed just beyond your reach. The promises appeared to remain on a distant horizon. Little by little, you adapted to the delay. You learned how to live with those limitations. You stopped expecting greater things because you were afraid of being disappointed again. But today, I want to awaken what has been sleeping within you. I want to remind you that delay is not your permanent dwelling place. It is only a season, and that season is coming to an end. Just as the people of Israel once stood on the banks of the Jordan River after many years in the wilderness, they had become so accustomed to temporary living that they sometimes forgot they had been called to the promised land. The wilderness had become familiar. Waiting had become normal. But then I declared that it was time to rise and cross over, not because the river disappeared first, but because the appointed time had arrived. The same is true for you. There are things in your life that will not change simply because you try harder. There are doors that will not open through human effort alone. They will open when I give the command. And I want you to understand that in the spiritual realm, movements have already begun before your eyes can see a single sign. My beloved child, do not think that breakthrough always arrives with thunder or dramatic events. Many times it begins with a change in the way you see yourself. For a long time, the enemy has tried to convince you that you are the one left behind. He has reminded you of your failures more often than your victories. He has caused you to focus on what has not happened rather than on what I have already done. But today, I am removing that veil. I want you to see yourself through the eyes of heaven. You are not forgotten. You have not been excluded from my plan. You are not a victim of circumstances. You are one whom I knew before the foundations of the world were laid. As it is written, you are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation. You do not walk with the identity of one who has been abandoned. You walk with the identity of one who has been called. What I am doing in your life right now is much like the story of Gideon. When I called him, he was hiding in a winepress because he was afraid of the enemy. He saw himself as the weakest, the least significant, and the least worthy. But I did not call him according to the way he saw himself. I called him according to what I had placed within him. I declared, mighty warrior, long before he felt strong. Do you see, my child? I always see the completed version of you before you can see it yourself. I see a leader when you still feel insecure. I see a victor while you are still in the battle. I see the harvest when all you can see is the seed. Therefore, I am calling you to renew your way of thinking. Do not continue to measure your life by what happened in the past. Do not judge your future by yesterday's failures. Do not look at doors that once closed and conclude that every door will do the same. A renewed mind sees opportunities where others see obstacles. A renewed mind recognizes my presence in situations that appear hopeless. As the scriptures declare, do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. True breakthrough always begins within before it becomes visible without. My beloved child, I also want you to understand that a new season does not merely bring new opportunities. It also requires a renewed heart. You cannot enter a broad and abundant land with a mindset of scarcity. You cannot receive great things while still seeing yourself as unworthy. I am teaching you to walk as one who has been entrusted, not as one who constantly fears loss. I am teaching you to live with the confidence that your provision does not come from circumstances but from me. When you truly understand this, fear will lose its hold over you. Comparison will lose its power. The invisible chains that once kept you bound will begin to fall away. Remember Peter after he had fished all night and caught nothing. Every bit of professional experience told him it was time to give up. Yet when I told him to cast the net once more, he obeyed. It was that act of obedience that opened the way for the miracle. What changed was not his skill. What changed was that he chose to trust my word more than his own experience. You are standing before a similar moment right now. I am inviting you to trust what I have spoken more than the limitations that circumstances have tried to place upon you. Therefore, my beloved child, rise up in the new identity that I am restoring within you. Stop calling yourself forgotten when I call you chosen. Stop seeing yourself as someone destined to remain behind when I am preparing to lead you into something new. Stop looking at the future through the eyes of fear. I have issued a decree from heaven that the season of delay is no longer where you belong. I am causing what seemed motionless to begin moving again. I am awakening visions that have long been dormant. I am rekindling the fire that had begun to fade within your heart. And as you walk in, trust. You will realize that what I am doing is not merely changing your circumstances. I am changing you so that you can enter the fullness I have prepared for you long ago. For where I am leading you is not a land of lack, but a place of abundant grace, where promises are revealed, and where you will see that my power has always been greater than every limitation that ever tried to confine you. My beloved child, there are moments along the journey of faith when the hardest thing is not facing adversity, but continuing to trust when everything appears unchanged. You look around and see the same familiar scenes. You are still standing amid old problems, old questions, and prayers that seem to have no clear answer. Deep within your heart, you have sometimes wondered, Lord, are you truly working? I hear that question, even when it is never spoken aloud. I know the moments when your faith is tested by waiting. But today I want you to understand this. Silence does not mean absence. Just because your eyes cannot yet see does not mean my hand is not at work. Some of heaven's greatest works are accomplished in places beyond the reach of human sight. My child, the world tends to believe only in what can be seen. But the kingdom of heaven often begins with what is invisible. A seed makes no sound as it takes root beneath the soil. Yet it is in that hidden place that life is being formed. A child grows day by day within the womb, unseen by human eyes. Yet at the appointed time, that life is revealed. In the same way, many of the miracles I perform in your life do not begin with dramatic events, but with quiet movements in the spiritual realm. What you call delay is sometimes merely the period during which I am arranging things beyond your ability to observe. Remember the prophet Elijah on Mount Carmel. After he prayed, the sky remained empty. Again and again, his servant returned with the same report. There was nothing. To natural eyes, it could have appeared that nothing was happening. Yet Elijah did not allow visible circumstances to determine his faith. He continued to persevere until a small cloud appeared on the distant horizon. It was only a tiny sign, but it foretold the coming of a great rain. My beloved child, my work in your life often begins in the same way. Before the season of rain arrives, there is a small cloud. Before a door fully opens, there are quiet signs. Before a promise is fulfilled, there are movements that only those who persevere in faith can recognize. Therefore, do not measure my power by the size of the sign you can see. Do not assume that small things are insignificant. In my hands, a small stone can bring down Goliath. A few loaves of bread can feed thousands. A little cloud can signal the end of a drought. And even a small spark of hope remaining within your heart is enough for me to begin a mighty work of restoration. As it is written, do not despise the day of small beginnings. What you consider a humble beginning may, in fact, be the gateway to something extraordinary. My beloved child, when I speak of battles in the spiritual realm, I do not want you to live in fear, but in the awareness that you do not walk alone. The scriptures reveal time and again that there are battles taking place beyond the sight of human eyes. When Daniel fasted and prayed, the answer was released from the very first day. Yet its fulfillment had to pass through unseen opposition. The angel who was sent to him declared that his prayer had been heard from the beginning. This teaches you that what you cannot see is not always emptiness. Sometimes it is the place where battles are being fought to prepare the way for fulfillment. Remember that your greatest strength does not lie in fully understanding everything happening in the spiritual realm. Your greatest strength lies in remaining faithful. Every time you pray in faith, you are taking your stand on the side of the light. Every time you worship in the midst of difficulty, you are declaring that I am greater than your problems. Every time you choose hope instead of despair, you are refusing to let darkness determine your future. The enemy continually seeks to convince you that your perseverance is pointless. But I say to you that not a single act born of faith is ever overlooked in my sight. My child, I know there have been days when you felt as though you had no strength left to continue. There have been long nights when your heart was weighed down by burdens that no one else could understand. There were moments when you tried to pray, yet the words seemed to catch in your throat. There were times when you looked at your circumstances and wondered whether you had been hoping for too long. But I want you to know that I was there through every one of those moments. I saw the times when you chose to rise again, even when every emotion urged you to give up. I saw the tears that no one else knew about. As it is written in the Psalms, you keep track of all my wanderings. You have collected all my tears in your bottle. Not a single tear has fallen without my notice. Not a single sigh has escaped your heart without my understanding. I want to tell you about the widow of Zarephath. When she met the prophet Elijah, she had only a handful of flour and a little oil left in her eyes. Everything was nearing its end. She was preparing her final meal and waiting for the worst to happen. Yet it was in that very moment, when hope seemed gone, that I began a miracle. The oil did not run out. The flour did not fail. What she believed was the end became the beginning of supernatural provision. The same is true for you. Do not rush to draw conclusions about your life while I am still writing the story. Do not call it the end when I have not spoken the final word. What you see as a limitation may be the very place where I choose to reveal my power. Therefore, my beloved child, do not be afraid to hope one more time. Do not allow past disappointments to steal your ability to expect good things from me. I am the God of hope, and those who place their trust in me will never be put to shame. If I have preserved you through your darkest seasons, I will also lead you into the light of a new one. If I have sustained you when you were at your weakest, I will also renew your strength for the days ahead. Continue to hold on to your faith. Continue to pray. Continue to stand firm. For even though your eyes may not yet see it, the heavens over your life are changing. Things that once seemed motionless are beginning to move. The promises are drawing nearer with each passing day. And the time will come when you look back on the road you have traveled and realize that not a single prayer was forgotten, not a single tear was wasted, and not a single day of waiting was meaningless. I have used all of it to prepare you for the harvest season into which I am leading you, a season where your faithfulness will meet my answer, and your faith will behold my glory revealed in a clear and undeniable way.